Just to introduce ourselves, we are SyMetric, and the solution is called SyMetric Clinical Trial Platform. It's a SaaS-based solution, providing tools like IRT, ETC, medical coding, and so on as an integrated single solution. And we've been working with SAP since 2017, and we've been strategic partners with them. And in 2019, we extended our relationship with the, SAP as partner edge partners. So we've been co-developing solutions since a couple of years on the SAP Business Technology Platform. And we are also happy that we are one of the first IRT vendors to have taken this journey along with SAP on implementing the GS1 standards. And we are happy to share our learnings today with all of you. So firstly, we can look at what GS1 actually means for an IRT system. So, honestly, GS1 is one of the first standards for an IRT system. As all of you might know, every vendor is left to implement IRT processes on their own, and there's no a defined standard. Though GS1 is not specifically meant for IRT, but IRT systems can definitely use GS1 as one of the standards to implement the underlying clinical supplies processes within the solution. And one of the things that GS1 enables is the interoperability. More so for the CROs and the pharma companies than the IRT vendors, because you would now be able to switch between different vendors more seamlessly within your solution ecosystems. And GS1 also kind of bridges the gap between the commercial healthcare supplies and also the clinical trial supplies. We have all known that GTIN existed since many years, but we have never been using that within the clinical trials ecosystem. So this is GS1 introduces that for the clinical trials, enables the IIT vendors to complete their study builds faster and deliver the deployments much faster, because GS1 is an open standard, and if once implemented, that standard could be used across any different supply chain system. So it could be any depot that we would want to integrate. We would be able to do that without having to spend that additional time in trying to understand the other party system and how the whole communication works. So GS1 is that open standard which we can rely on to work with different vendors and partners to integrate the solutions. And of course, it eliminates the manual data reconciliations that are needed across the supply chain, especially from an IRT perspective. You would know the pain points while trying to reconcile the data from an IRT system. And obviously, a few more advantages that GS1 specifically provides to IIT is that it enables you to uniquely recognize organizations through GLN codes. So that's one of the pieces that IIT vendors have always been struggling, while integrating with larger enterprise models with different pharma companies. And the same goes with the GTIN code. So GTIN, is basically to identify the stocks. So we can also now talk about how GS1 has been implemented on SyMetric IRT. So we took a very flexible and adaptable approach when trying to implement this, with a long-term vision that we know that GS1 is going to be implemented by different pharmaceutical companies over the next couple of years. So we are very strong in believing so. So we've implemented it as an out-of-the-box configurable REST API. So it can be used out of the box with any for any study. You don't need to kind of do any development or go through the software development life cycle for that. And we have integrated the GS1 data points within the IRT's master data. So that allows a lot of flexibility when trying to configure studies that have both GS1 and the conventional processes running side by side. So it's a fully configurable solution. So that's all from the presentation perspective. And now we can jump in straight to the demo, and we can see how it's actually implemented in its practical form. So let me share my screen here. So I hope the screen is visible and the font size is pretty clear. Okay. Um, so we'll begin with, as I mentioned, we have implemented them as out-of-the-box services. So we have something called as data services within the IRT platform. So here are the two services that we have implemented specific to this integration. One being the GS1 business messaging standard for clinical trials, and second being the SAP ICSM IRT actuals. So the GS1 BMS has about 9 or 10 different interfaces that Kriti and Shekul have spoken about earlier. So these are the interfaces that we have for the GS1 service. And similarly for the IRT actuals, as of now, we have these two interfaces for the master data and IRT actuals inbound data. So in future, we'll also be working closely with SAP to also integrate with the study, build and configuration APIs as well. So it's a work in progress for us right now. And apart from these two services, we also had to, update the master data to, now include the GS1 metadata as well. So one of the things that we have done is updated our organization master to now include the GLN codes as part of the master data itself. And this IIT can, store multiple address profiles for each organization, and each address profile could have its own GLN code. And similarly, for the G10, um, under the stock definitions, we have again included the G10 again as part of the IIT's master data. So, these are some of the things that we had to changes that we had to bring into the IIT to enable this whole GS1 integration workflow. Now we'll actually start off with one of the first processes that we saw in the swim lane diagram, which we spoke about. So one of the first points, from a GS1 perspective is, of course, the inventory. How do we synchronize the inventory from ICSM to the IRT? So as Preeti mentioned, ICSM sends the inventory report to the IRT over the GS1 interface in a scheduled manner, and that schedule could be set depending upon different operational needs. Apart from that, we've also created an interface on the IRT where you could request an inventory report manually from the ICSM. So here is the interface for that. And you can request the inventory for individual, stocks, or you can include all the different inventories in the study, and then just place the inventory report. And now the IRT would send over the request for inventory report to ICSM, and then ICSM would send that information back to the IRT, all happening on through the GS1 interfaces. So this is one of the first things that we had to implement from an inventory synchronization perspective. And now we'll move on to the distribution part. So from a distribution part, first things is, of course, the shipment requests coming from an IRT perspective. So any IRT should be able to, send generate shipment requests either automatically based on certain triggers or manually. So here in the demo, we'll go ahead with a manual shipment request. So here we'll just choose the source as one of the depots that we saw in the diagram shown by Shakul. So here's the 3PL depot that we're talking about, which is placed in US. And then we'll choose an investigation site as the destination, and it is one of the clinics in the US again. So here we'll just enter the expected delivery by date, and I'll mention it as 22nd. It's tomorrow. And now coming to defining what kits need to be requested for the shipment. So here I'll just choose two kits, kit 1, kit 2 for the demo, and I'll just provide quantities as 1 each. And I'll complete the shipment request process here on the IRT. Now, once the shipment request is raised on the IRT, IRT would send over this request through the GS1 shipment request interface to the ICSM. And we can now see from the ICSM side how things play out from a sales order perspective and so on. So just a note here, I've just shown a simple workflow on the IRT where you raise a shipment request and it's automatically sent to the ICSM. But we can set up any kind of a workflow. So typically, usually in the IRT systems, if a shipment request is generated by somebody else, it's sent to the ClinOps team. ClinOps team approves that request on the IRT, and then that request is sent over to the ICSM. So those processes, workflows could also be set up on the IRT. So that does not have any dependency on the GS1 interfaces. So that plays out really well. So here we can see the shipment request 1032. That's the request that we have just raised, and the current status is accepted and pending for dispatch. So now we can also see the audit trail to see if there is any exchange of information that's already happened for this request. So we've added the request at 2139, and then we have received a GS1 shipment notification confirmation already. So this is the GS1 technical confirmation handshake message that we get from ICSM that ICSM has received the shipment request. And we can also see that we have received the shipment confirmation from ICSM, which then updates the IRT shipment request status from pending for acceptance to accepted and pending for dispatch. So it seems like the sales order is ready on the ICSM to be dispatched. At this point, I'll just stop sharing and hand it over to our colleague from SAP, Satish, to go through the SAP sales order process.
Okay, we have a set of applications or tiles on the SAP S/4HANA side to show and navigate to the end-to-end site shipment process for today. So we just saw Ragul had just created a sales site shipment order or site shipment request ending with number 1032. So I'm trying to find that corresponding 1032 site shipment request in the application. Either I can use the display sales order app or the change sales order app. Let me navigate to the change display sales order app. And here I'm just trying to provide the input, what we saw in the IRT system as a customer reference, because we are trying to, the interface is trying to update the customer reference at the header level as well as at the item level of the site shipment order. So by inputting this number, I'm just giving a quick search. I'm able to find an item for the corresponding customer reference. So I want to see the detailed view of it. So I'm just picking it. So here you can see the customer reference from the IRT has been updated at the header level, and the same you can see at the item level detail as well. For example, if you navigate to the order data, so here also we are updating the customer reference from the IRT system. So apart from the standard SAP, you will be able to see something additional or specific to ICSM. We have updated a study information tab. We have the details of the study ID and the protocol ID, which is again coming from the IRT, and also this is coming from the reference document which got picked by the IRT for the corresponding sales order creation. We have a scheduling agreement at the country level, which has been picked, and it under the country we have the specific hospital for which the specific sales order has been created. So again, we further, if you want to see the detail about the medication and the material linkage, we have a specific maintained medication section. So these are the medication kit, one kit which has been chosen for the active material by Ragul in IRT system. Similarly, we have the medication kit which got updated on the placebo line item as well in the sales order. So the interface also checks and validate the various header level checks and the item level checks for the delivery blocks, which needs to be triggered at the time of sales order creation. So here we will check the application log or the display log for the corresponding sales order at header level and see what are the validations that has been executed for the successful not triggering the delivery block. Yeah. So here the first delivery blocks which got successfully determined is the non-working date. The delivery date is allowed on the clinical site. The clinical site or hospital is functioning and working on the specific delivery date. So this is successfully, the result is successful for the specific checks. Then we are checking whether the materials, the 1890 and 91 active and placebo, which has been released for the country which is performing the clinical study, run the trial, that is checked, and then we don't have a delivery block for that specific validation. So similarly, it happened for both line item of the material in the sales order or site shipment order. Then we are checking whether the clinical study, which is conducting clinical study in the site, which is conducted, has been really planned and active status. That check has been performed and there is no delivery block in that result as well. Checking whether the material has been released for the country, and in this case, US is the country which is undergoing the study for a specific medication kits. So we are checking again for the both line item 10 and line item 20 has been checked. That is also successfully passed through the checks of delivery block. Then we have something called study distribution enablement check. At the study master level, you have an option to track the site level inventory. If the site level inventory has been marked for this specific study, which is used in this site shipment process, then that successfully checks has been determined and no delivery block is determined here. So the reason for maintaining this study distribution enablement or site level tracking in the study master, there will be a subsequent process which will be triggered at the time of post goods issue of the delivery of the site shipment order. We will trigger an ICSM specific documents like site purchase order and inbound delivery of the site purchase order, for which the actual receiving advice will be updated as a goods material document in S4. So this will be coming from IRT. Once the receiving advice has been completed, the same document has get updated in ICSM S4 as well. So over the during the course of the demo, I will be able to show that process as well. Just keep this delivery block for the site distribution enablement. We will come back to you on this. So then we have something called do not ship check. The do not ship check will take into account a couple of characteristics like site buffer, site shipping lead time, and treatment duration. So we have totally 18 days as a do not ship lead time based on these three characteristics. So for which the corresponding delivery date is which is planned for tomorrow, and the expiry date of the batch which has been used for the medication kit is 10th of October in 2024. So the expiry date is greater than the do not ship to date which has been calculated. In this case, the 13th of September is derived from the expiry dates subtracted by the do not ship to lead time. So we have the do not ship to date calculated as 13th of September. So which is always greater than the delivery date, which is tomorrow. So this check has been successfully determined for both line item in the sales order. Yeah, and last couple of checks are coming from the qualified person check, which is maintained for a specific country under the batch level of the specific medication kit. So these two checks on the specific batches. We have two batches for the two different materials in the site shipment order. That is also successfully checked. The last check is for the transportation release check. It's just a check whether we have the enough stock of the medication kit in unrestricted stock compared to the quantity which has been ordered at the site shipment order. So all the success delivery blocks validations has been at header level or item level has been successfully validated, and in this example this has been successfully passed as well, and this interface also validates this similar to the way when we create the site shipment order directly in S4, all these checks has been happening. So it has also happened in the interface mode of creating the site shipment order. Part of the flow, subsequent flow of the demo. So I would like to show once the site shipment order has been created, we would like to check the corresponding medication kit status, which you can see in the medication kit tab, which is a display medication kit tab, which I already opened here. So I'm just trying to put one example out of the active medication CFG material. So here I will just to show you the medication kit flow and what is the reference document that is connected to it and its audit trail. Here you can see the status is currently assigned to sales order. Even before it's created, it was in available status at the specific plant, which is a shipping plant. In this case is CUS6. So now if you go deep down into the item level of the medication kit, we'll be able to see the reference document of the site shipment order, which just got created by means of IRT interface. And also you have an option to see the audit log of the change documents. It moved from available status to the assigned to sales order status. So subsequently, we want to use the app called Create Outbound Delivery with reference to site shipment order to trigger the dispatch advice from ICSM S4 to the IRT system. For that, let's try to use the app called Create Outbound Delivery. So in this case, we are shipping from a shipping point US 61, and I'm using the order number 718 in this example. I will just try to do the picking for it. So just before posting the PGI or the post goods issue for this specific outbound delivery, I will try to save this outbound delivery and then try to go back to the medication kit app to show you the difference, what happened after the creation of outbound delivery. This status should have been moved from assigned to sales order to assigned to outbound delivery in this case. Yeah, as you can see this. And we will be connecting the outbound delivery which just got created for the site shipment order in the reference document. And similarly, the status will also get moved from ASOR to assigned to outbound delivery. So now we can try to change the outbound delivery using the change app, change outbound delivery, and then try to perform the goods issue for this. Yeah. Okay, so now the outbound delivery is created as well. And before jumping on to the medication kit status, I would like to show the audience the output, delivery output. So here we have a special output called LAVB, which actually triggers the there are two documents which additionally get created, which is called site purchase order and the inbound delivery for the site purchase order. So which can be again tracked in another application. Yeah. So I will just try to copy the delivery number, and here you can have an application log, which you can see for a ICSM specific object you can input under the corresponding subcategory we can input. And I'm just inputting the copied outbound delivery. So here I have a log which got created. So here I can see there is a site shipment order, which is the purchase order, and its inbound delivery has been created. So now I'm planning to perform the PGI for this. Let me try to show the document flow. Yeah, the GI is completed, and then the Lava B, which triggers the site purchase order and the inbound delivery. So for this information would be going to IRT system as the dispatch advice, for which Rahul needs to process the IRT system for confirmation, and we'll be seeing the receiving advice at the clinical site updated for the corresponding purchase order as well as the inbound delivery. Yeah. So as expected, I see this as in transit, and then quickly we'll just have a look on the reference documents. So we created a site shipment order, which is a sales order, outbound delivery, and then we have the PGI. We have the purchase order created for the clinical site for tracking the stock in the clinical site, and the inbound delivery for the clinical site specific virtual plant. Yeah. So now we need to receive the receiving advice back from the IRT system.
Let me just go ahead and refresh the screen here so that we can see if the shipment request status is now updated to dispatched. It should have been. So here we can see the request 1032 is now marked as dispatched, meaning which the GS1 interfaces have worked correctly and everything is intact. So at this point in time, basically on the IIT side, I should be able to switch over or log in as a site user and then, proceed to receive the shipment. But as I've already logged in as an admin user, I can do that from the same login. So I'll just proceed to receive the shipment that we've just, that has just been dispatched on the ICSM. So here is the shipment number that you've just seen, 8001647. And so we'll go ahead and we can see that the current status is in transit, and this is the shipment date. So we'll go ahead and try to receive the shipment within the IRT. So typically the site would be performing this transaction on the IRT. And here are the two kit numbers that we have received from the shipment. And now, the site can proceed to just simply receive the shipment, or the IRT also provides some additional workflows in case if there's any temperature excursion or if any of the kits need to be quarantined, that can be done. So let's say we proceed to quarantine one of the kits. We can mark it as quarantine and we can choose the reason for doing so. Let's say if there's a temperature excursion in one of the kits, we could select that and then continue to receive the shipment with this information. Now, in either of the cases, the GS1 interface supports all of this information to be passed on, to the other system, that's the ICSM system. So whether we are, going with receiving the shipment, just straightforward receiving, that information would be sent over to the ICSM. And in case if we are updating any of the kits as part of this, quarantine process, even that information would be included within, within the same interface and sent over to the ICSM. So all of this is kind of integrated. So here I'll just, mark it as no and continue to receive as is. So once the shipment is received, again, the IRT would be able to send over the receiving advice to the ICSM system. And here is the confirmation from the IRT side. So for a brief moment, I'll just hand it over back to Satish to see how these kits have been updated on the ICSM side.
Retained in the end-to-end supply chain process flow, the site shipment order. So I think as part of the flow, I think the medication kit is available in the clinical site. Raghu, do you want to dispense it to patient and then see what is the behavior at SAPN?
Sure, Satish, we could do that.
Please.
So I'll just move to the subject management part where we'll, try and dispense a kit to one of the subjects. So here we already have a couple of subjects enrolled into this clinical US site. So let me choose one subject here. And so we've already completed the screening and the randomization for this subject. And we also initiated a couple of visits. So we'll go ahead and initiate the next visit and then try to dispense an IP. So of course, IIT validates the visit dates here, just for the demo purposes. Let me just enter date. So once the visit is initiated, we should be able to dispense a kit to this subject. And IIT would know what is the kind of a kit depending upon the study design, the dose levels and everything. So once the kit is dispensed, IIT would be able to send that information over to the ICSM again through the GS1 dispensing advice interface. And it would also talk about, what's the kit number that's dispensed and what's the status that needs to be updated to on the ICSM system. And apart from dispensing this kit, I'll also continue to mark this visit as completed, because whenever a visit is completed in the IRT, again, the IRT sends over the IRT actuals information to the ICSM. So these are some of the two trigger points where the IRT sends over the actuals to the ICSM, apart from screening and randomization. So it's at three different places, as we saw in one of the workflow diagrams presented by Preeti. It's at the level of screening, at the time of randomization, at the time of dispensing, and at the time of completing the visit. That the IRT actuals information is kind of sent over to the ICSM. So this kind of completes the whole workflow from the IIT side. So again, I'll stop sharing and then hand it over to Satish to see the kit status being updated on the ICSM.
We'll try to input that as a medication kit and then see what is shown here. Okay, so here I can see the status has been changed to dispensed. So let's further navigate into the reference document. So here, after the goods receipt, which has been posted, there is a subsequent document for the dispensation advice has been posted back in S4 based on the interface that got triggered from IRT here. So I will also try to navigate this to see the linkage of the medication kit at the document level as well. Yes, we do have this is the medication kit which got dispensed to the patient from the IRT system. So which is also get captured back in S4 as a process flow or through means of a material document. Also the medication kit has been read at the document level. So this ends the process in SAP S4 as well.
So here we would just like to summarize a few key important aspects from our journey of implementing GS1. So I think some of these have already been asked as questions in the chat box. So some of them might be answers to those questions. So firstly, right now from the GS1 interface perspective, they do not have a specific interface to cancel the specific interface to communicate the cancellation of shipment requests. So let's say if a shipment request after it's generated, if it gets cancelled on the IRT, there's no way to kind of communicate that back to SAP in the same way. Other way around as well. So that's one of the things that, and we've already communicated this to GS1, and I think Preeti, as he mentioned, there's an upcoming release in April from GS1, and where they're planning to include or update all of these shortcomings from the current version of the business messaging standard. So next is about the kit status code mapping, which we already talked about. So right now there are some kit status code which we typically see in clinical trials, which is kind of missing from GS1. Some of them being like statuses like retained or any other something specific to clinical trials, which GS1 doesn't support right now. And these again would be included or updated in the upcoming release in April. And I think Preeti would cover a little more about the future enhancements on the GS1 part. And then the support for non-serialized stock. Basically, if you have a bunch of non-serialized stocks within the inventory and you're trying to, let's say, just take a few of those stock units, and trying to, update their status, it's currently not possible with the GS1 interface because they do not provide the quantity option to specify the quantity while actually updating the kit statuses. So it works well for the serialized stock, but not for the non-serialized stocks. And there is another, this is kind of a silly scenario that kind of happens within the GS1 PMS standard. So let's say if for some of the bidirectional messages like kit status change, so if IRT sends over a kit status change update through the GS1 to ICSM, it sometimes can, create a cyclic dependency where ICSM again creates another request and sends that over to the IRT. So we have to come up with some measures to kind of prevent the cycling of messages, which we have in our current implementation. And the whole implementation is kind of, though it's fairly simple, but the documentation, the detail of the documentation was a little less for an IRT vendor who's trying to implement this for the first time. So some suggestions from our side for GS1 is to improve the use cases documentation and the samples that they provide, and to be able to cover or provide additional kit status codes to cover all the different scenarios, and probably a new interface to exchange the kit definition or the stock definition itself. So these are some of the learnings and suggestions that we are happy to share here with everybody from the consortium. And this whole exercise was quite interesting and quite not, informative, to have gone through this along with SAP.